Hello, everyone. I apologize. I was running a little bit late. Trying to do a million and one things. This is not going to be stable. I have this sitting on top of some books, and that looked like that was like danger waiting. It's like danger zone. Danger, danger, danger. Okay. I was going to do this live in November, but November was not a good month for me. November was a horrible month for me. And so we are just now doing the December new release video. Live show. Not video, live show. I'm hoping, my hope is that I will find time to do the January new release video this month. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that that will be a thing that happens this month. But the good thing about it is that we are doing this before we actually hit a release day, which is tomorrow, which is why I actually had to shift some things around to make this thing happen. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know as I send myself this email because I did not print out I usually have a paper copy of the notations for the books that I cover, but unfortunately I did not get the opportunity to do that. December is not a huge release month. December is never a huge release month because of the holidays. November and December is typically where you see things start to fall off for publishing. Not that things aren't getting published, but we're not seeing as many as we typically see. So tonight, I think I only have 58. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you because if you know, or maybe you don't, I'm assuming that you know, for my job, I actually, sorry y'all if you hear the fire trucks. I feel like they've been going like all night long. All night long, all night, all night, all night long, all night, all night. You see, I'm in a much better place. If you didn't notice, I'm in a much better place than I was in November. There's not a lot in December. It's 58 titles. But January and February is going to be a different ball game. Because I order months in advance from work, I kind of already have an idea of what is coming out January and February. And let me tell y'all, um, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm hoping that I can do January in one live show. But depending upon how much content I round up for January, I may have to split that live into two. But only 50, is it 58? Or did I make that number up? No, I was right. It's only 58 for this evening. And there's 1 week in December, which is December 19th. I only have two releases. So, all right, let's go ahead because I don't want to stay up all night. I always forget how to do this, y'all. There we go. Slides. I'm like, how do I do this again? Okay. There we go. Now we can upload. You requested, an Arc of the Eternal Ones by Namina. Oh, I still haven't. Ray, don't fuss me out, man. I'm trying to get this Goodreads video up by Thursday. And so I've been reading a lot for Goodreads. So it's mind you, reading a lot for Goodreads, and there's no graphic novel category. But I did my own thing, and I'm hoping that I can get that up. So I've been reading a lot of that stuff. All right, is everyone ready? So I can go ahead and get started. I'm probably gonna be I'm gonna say No to the Book Thief for me. I don't think I'm gonna be able to make that shake. I would rather focus on getting the Gilded Ones and the Merciless Ones knocked out this month, because those were high priority for me this month. Whereas the Book Thief, I don't think as much. If I get to it, I get to it, but it's not priority. All right. Okay. Jennifer said she's ready, so I'm gonna go with Jennifer here. All right, so we're starting with the week of December 5th, which is technically tomorrow. I do everything late, as we all know it. As we all know it. All right, so this is release day for tomorrow. First on the docket, we have a children's fiction, YA contemporary fiction, and a YA thriller. The children's fiction is the 20th book in the Desmond Cole Ghost Patrol series. So if you did not know, I am a huge fan of Desmond Cole Ghost Patrol, but I am only on book number 5. So I keep thinking, I'm like, dang, I have like, 15 more books. They take me like 30 minutes to read. But if you have a younger reader, or if you know a younger reader that likes horror, um, but is not ready for even like the goosebumps type of stuff, this is it's a little bit easier than what you would see with like Goosebumps. But they're fun. Unlike Goosebumps, this is a very diverse series. And each time they're meeting a new ghost. I think the one that I just read, the ghost was a librarian, uh, and it was cute. And this one deals with clowns. So I know if Chris was here, she'd be like, heck no. After that, we have a YA contemporary fiction, which is Every Time You Go Away. This one, when I read the description of this one, I was like, this is kind of sad. It is about a main character by the name of Rebecca who was close to another character. And they were kind of like childhood best friends, um, play all the time. I think they share like a first kiss. Um, and he ends up moving away to deal with um, his mother's struggle with addiction. And then she ends up getting into a car accident that killed her father and left her in a wheelchair. So she's trying to navigate life now being a wheelchair user. Um, and I think that the two of them end up meeting again. So this one I'm very interested in, but also very weary of because the disability representation of this one can either go really, really good or it can go really, really bad. But the premise of it um, really intrigued me, and I always get very interested in young adult books that do, or how I don't want to say do, but include conversations about addiction. One of my favorite is Minnie McGinnis's Heroine. I haven't found a young adult book that has done addiction as well as that book. And when I tell you that book that's one of my favorite books of all time. And I haven't read Heroine in a very long time. No, 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 no. Maybe I read it in like the past 2 or 3 years. But Heroine, oh my goodness gracious. So I constantly am looking for young adult books that tackle addiction, and I'm wondering how this one is going to do. The next one that we have is a young adult thriller called Tag You're Dead. This is I can't remember what this one was comped as. I feel like it was comped. No, that was another one. I was about to give y'all the wrong comps. But this is about social media. It follows a social media influencer who um, does a live stream, right? And it's a game of tag. And whoever wins gets the opportunity to be his live in personal assistant. So, what I am getting from this is that people who are his fans are going to take it too far. And I'm wondering if this one is going to do a good job of capturing um, parasocial relationships. That's what I was looking for. Especially because it's looking at social media. I haven't read a good young adult book that tackles social media, but with social media being such a big part of these next two generations, I wonder how well it's going to tackle the ups and downs of social media. Because everybody wants to be on social media and everybody wants to be a big influencer until you get to that point and you realize how complicated it is. So that one definitely was an interesting one to me. um, these first two, another young adult couple of books here. Both of these are part of series that I have not read, but have gotten a lot of traction at my library. This first one is This Cursed Light, which is the sequel to This Vicious Grace. Um, I say fantasy, but this has also been coined as like romantasy. So we're not only seeing now an influx of romantasy in adult literature, although it's always existed, but I think an influx of interest and an influx of more authors trying out romantasy. Um, but this one is coined as being a, having romantic elements attached to it. I haven't read the first book, so I can't really tell you much about the first one. The next one we have is The Ruin, which is the conclusion to the um, quartet that started with The Beautiful. I know that when The Beautiful first came out by Renee Ahdieh, people were very, very interested in it. I think interest has waned a little bit with it, and I feel like there was a big gap between the third book and this one, but I could be wrong. I haven't even read The Beautiful, and I go back and forth on wanting to try it out, but we'll see. Um, the next one is Denise Williams. I used to read every book that Denise Williams came out with, and then she started writing really, really fast, and I couldn't keep up. But this is going to be her latest release, which is an adult romance. She writes adult romances, and it's technically yours. And it is a almost like I feel like this is going to be a second chance romance because the hero fell in love with her, I think maybe 7 to 8 years prior to the current events of this book. And then they get the opportunity to meet again because he couldn't date her then. And then he gets the opportunity to date her at the time that this book starts. But their relationship could possibly, you know, bring some interesting elements to her career. So, sorry, stop for the comments really quick. It does sound intriguing. Just like why he threw. I have hits. I do more. To be honest with you, Lena, I do better with YA horror than I do YA thrillers. Me and YA thrillers have like a love-hate relationship. I'll find one that's like bomb, and then I'll read one that's like meh. And then YA thrillers that are series usually do not work for me. The last one that worked for me was what is the one with the oh goodness gracious. She just came out with another one and I read it and it had a main character that drove me absolutely up the wall. It's the one that's the podcast. Y'all help me out here. She's very, very popular. The girl's running a podcast in the books. The third one is a miss for everyone because of a character change. And she recently just released a new one. I'm horrible. My brain is completely fried right now. I read that one by her as well. Um, and it was, middle of the ground because I hated one of the main characters. So, um, yeah, I'm horror is usually A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Thank you, y'all. Yes, that's the series I'm talking about. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. The first two books were like 5-star reads for me. Got to the third one and it was 3. So there's that. Yeah, I typically have enjoyed most of everything that Denise Williams has done. Yeah, I thought it was done too. That's why I said I feel like there was a huge gap between the third one and this one, but I can't remember. Didn't Love the Beautiful. Yeah. I feel like it had very mediocre ratings. Yes, always cautious of YA thrillers, and never the rest. Thank you y'all for helping me with that. A Good Girls Guide doesn't have a podcast though. I'm reading that now. The audiobook sounds like a podcast is what I mean, Kathleen. I apologize for that confusion. If you listen to the audiobook, it sounds like it feels very true crime podcast. Unless we're both wrong here. Correct me. It's been a while since I read it too, the way through this. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, this is not shade. It's definitely not shade. Sometimes you just need that. We have another YA thriller, Make Me a Liar. This has been comped as Veronica Mars with a twist, which I thought was interesting. But it's a thriller, but it almost has a I don't know how to describe it because the main character has what they call the transferable consciousness. Um, which I think is interesting to be able to like transfer your mind to someone else. And she typically uses her power for good, right? Um, but somebody, when she uses somebody, I think she switches with somebody, to my understanding, she switches to somebody, she switches with somebody, and then they use her body to kill someone. Um, and now she has to figure out how all of that happened and who did it. So that to me, the premise of that one, I was like, all right, that's a twist. I think I'm used to kind of like the murder mystery aspect of a lot of YA thrillers, but the fact that she has this ability to transfer her consciousness to people and she's exchanging things with people, but then they use her body, which I'm guessing she doesn't know that this transfer occurs without her knowledge, and they use her body to commit a murder, and now she has to unravel the pieces of the puzzle. I think that's pretty like, I don't know. That sounded pretty intriguing to me. um, I included this next one. Um, this is a kind of a high end on children's, low end of middle grade. And that's a Goddess Girl series. I've read a few of these. They're really interested if you have a younger reader who's not ready for like Percy Jackson, but is really into mythology. Heroes in Training and Goddess Girls are both great series for younger readers who are looking still more like the chapter book feel instead of the hunker of books that Rick Riordan writes. This is book number 30, I think. Oh, 29. I thought it was book number 30. This is book number 29 in the series. And it follows Elpis. I think that's how you, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me. Um, and this is a goddess that is learning how to be a human. The last one we have is another adult romance. And of course, a lot of people are familiar with TJ Alexander. This is about a trans man that returns to Florida for Christmas after his career goes to Sugar Honey Iced Tea. Um, and not only that, so not only is it like, okay, my career has been completely just blown to smithereens. I'm going home for the holidays, and then I come across my ex, which is not, no one ever. I've been there, done that, especially if you did not break up on good terms. It's very, very awkward. Which is why I definitely tried not to enter any serious long-term relationships with anybody from my hometown. Um, but this is a rom-com, so it's supposed to be funny. Clearly, this is a second chance romance. I have not read TJ Alexander yet, but I have heard some good things and then some also not so great things. But all right, next one. I'm not going to lie to y'all. This next one, I simply added for my own personal reasons of interest, um, because it is an adult romance that is a novel that is inspired by The Wizard of Oz. That's all I needed to hear. I love twist on Wizard of Oz. Now, mind you, I've never read the original series by Frank L. Baum. I just haven't ever had like a strong urge to pick them up. But I often like reading retellings of The Wizard of Oz because people add their own spin, twist, and flair that is usually really interesting. Daniel Page did a series back in the day, probably could have been like 2013, 2014, which is a series that I need to reread. It's a Dorothy Must Die series. And Daniel Page is very much so known for her like fractured fairy tales or retellings. In the Dorothy Must Die series, um, everyone that is good, she flips it. So everyone that is good in The Wizard of Oz is actually evil. So Glinda is horrible. Dorothy is a tyrant. And we have this main character that is from Kansas that ends up there and ends up having to like go to battle with Dorothy, which I thought was a very interesting concept. Um, it definitely did not it didn't hold up all the way through to the end of the series, but I rather did enjoy it. No, Aaron, I haven't gotten a chance to watch it. I saw it, it popped up in my. Honestly, I'm gonna be 100. I haven't been watching a lot of content. I've been so busy. In November, I missed so much content because I just wasn't in the headspace. So I am now retroactively like going back to watch content that I did not watch in November, which is now putting me behind on content that I wanted to watch that's now currently releasing, especially people who are doing Vlogmas content. The next one that we have is The Book at War. Um, Now, this is interesting because I just keep thinking about how we're in this constant battle with books right now because we're in this culture war. And I'm not sure that this is necessarily going to address this because um, it basically shows how books were used across the 20th century um, in both positive ways. So, like, in terms of creating peace, and then also ways to weaponize them. And so I'm very interested in seeing like where this author is going to explore um, the historical legacy of literature and how it applies to actual battles that were fought during the 20th century. So I'm thinking here, definitely World War One, World War Two. I wonder if they'll touch on like Vietnam. Um, there's so much I think that they could play with in this in terms of content. So um, that's an adult nonfiction that I'm interested in checking out. All right, we are moving on. Um, this next one is a picture book. It's a gift for Nai. This is a young girl who wants to give her grandmother a gift for her birthday. Um, and she's having a difficult time crocheting. And I learned how to crochet from my grandmother and my mother. And crocheting is not as easy sometimes, I think, as people make it look it out to be. Especially when I crochet, I always have a difficult time like making sure my lines are straight. I struggle with that. And so this one kind of resonated with me and it's cute. I love seeing relationships between grandparents and their grandchildren, especially because I like watching the relationship that my daughter has with my mother, the very good grandmother granddaughter relationship, inseparable dynamic duo. So that one kind of called to me. Then we have Dazzling. Um, this one I wasn't sure where to put, whether it fiction, fantasy, I think it can cross into both. Um, Maybe literary fantasy because it's comped as The Girl with the Loud Voice meets The Water Dancer. And that definitely feels more on the literary fantasy side. And it has a new take on West African mythology. Anything really that has the tag West African mythology, I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm instantly like, I'm intrigued. I'm a huge fan of anything that encompasses West African mythology. The last one we have is a YA contemporary slash realistic fiction. This is another rom-com. It's a debut author. It's about an artist who agrees to fake date one of his long-term frenemies, um, which I think I could never, y'all. I could never. And the reason why they do it is because they want to get intel to take down their rivals. So imagine like dating someone, you're like, okay, well, we're frenemies, but if we do this thing, it'll give us an opportunity to gather as much information as we need. Um, to take down. That's just a wild, that's a wild concept. Um, and of course, every time I read that title, I hear Lady Gaga because it's caught in a bad romance, but all I hear is caught in a bad romance. Like I can't not like that title. Just it never. There was another YA title that I think was it this year or last year. I think it was last year, beginning of last year, called "Spin Me Round," and all I could hear was the song "You Spin Me Round." I couldn't not. So these like titles that these authors come up with that are very reminiscent of popular songs. It, I'm like, never. You would never get that out of your head. All right, we have two more picture books coming up here. I don't want to mispronounce this. This is Lau Lau's Dumplings. Um, I love any picture books that encompass food, okay? I love food-based picture books. I never like to read them on an empty stomach because it screws you up to read them on an empty stomach because the illustrations always go off and it makes you want to eat whatever is being described. But this one is about a young girl who is learning to cook dumplings. And you follow them along as they gather um, different items from Chinatown. And so step by step, you're making the dumplings with them. See, I would love to do a video where I read food-based picture books and then make recipes from the picture books. Hmm, that might not be a bad idea for next year. Thinking about it, might not be a bad idea. All right. The next one is I'm going to be a princess. And this is one of those like, what will I be when I grow up? And so as you're reading the book, you watch the main character Maya go through just different things, different possibilities of what she could be when she grows up, which I think is cool. Like it's awesome. I love stuff like that because I think as kids, the possibilities are endless. Kids dream so big, and I hate that as adults, like, as you become more aware of the world around you, you realize how much that is stripped from us as we continue to develop. Kids have no concept of, I can't do this. I mean, toddlers often are like, I can't do it, but not the idea like I can't be whatever I want to be. And we lose that as we get older. And so I always love picture books that are like, you can be anything that you want to be, anything that you choose in a world you can be, and that's perfectly fine. Um, then the last one that we have is I had to include it because, Goodreads just really just screwed us all over this year. They gave us a romantasy category, and now I'm seeing a lot of romantasy getting picked by traditional publishers. It's things that we're seeing, marketed heavily now in publishing because, of course, that's the trend. Publishing is always going to follow the trend because the breadcrumbs always lead to the dollar signs. So this is I think this author is already popular on TikTok, if I'm not mistaken. Um, she's already written a few things, but this is the first in a new romantasy trilogy, and they literally say that it is an all new book in a romantasy trilogy. So that term is now becoming um, more popular. But this one I think has some queer rep in it that maybe I necessarily have not seen in a lot of romantasy books, but it is definitely your traditional main character, somebody's inheriting a throne, have to fight someone evil. But in this one, the main character um, is trying to save her sister. So yeah. All right. Go and look at some of these comments. Um, I think that because it's not the direct lyrics, it is a play on it. I don't think that there's no copyright infringement technically because like there's no, you know what I'm saying? Like and the lyrics of the song are not necessarily being used in the text and they can't necessarily, it's one of those things where it can be reminiscent of a song, but you're not using the exact words. Like no one has a copyright on, you know, um, spin me right round or spin me round, something, whatever, caught in a bad fomance clearly is a play on Lady Gaga's song, but it's not using caught in a bad romance. So, but I also do, Bethany, no lie, I do get kind of surprised because I'm like, that's towing the line there. But I'm sure that, they cross their T's and dot their I's because they ain't want no lawsuit. Um, thanks, y'all. Yeah, I definitely that's an idea. I'll put that in my list of ideas for next year. Oh, yeah, I don't like the word either, Kathleen. Like I thought I was the only one. No, because my coworker also she was telling me she was like because she's been reading romance for years, and she's like this stuff has always been around, and like the idea that they've attached this term to it, and someone else was telling me too that they were in a session, some type of training, and somebody had brought up the term romanticy, and all the librarians in the room were kind of like, "What in the world is that?" Like, it's not something that everyone recognizes. I think it's something that's very, very attached to social media, and I don't know how many people identify like, fantasy with romantic elements as being romanticy. Like, it's just not a thing. Yeah. And then it's a Aaron. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it at all. It is just fantasy romance. Like everything has to have some type of term or something like hot and trendy. Like people will do anything. All right, so this next one we have children's fiction, which is Mercy Watson in is missing. This is part of the Deco Drive chapter book series. So these are not the um, this is not the original Mercy Watson books. These Deco Drive books are just a tad bit longer, but of course, um, this one still specifically centers Mercy, which I love Mercy. Mercy is the cutest little pig who loves toast and butter and sleeps in a bed like humans and gets catered to like a child. I'm sorry, y'all. The child next to me is having a huge meltdown right now. Like, I mean, so loud that I can hear her screaming, and it's distracting. She's her and her mama be going to Tasha. Could not be me. She be giving her mama the business. It could let me tell you, could not be me. Could not be me. The next one that I have is an adult fiction, and it's The Wildest Son. Um, this is the author's second book. Um, and it follows a main character on her search for a literary figure that she thinks is her father. Um, I always get interested too in books that follow like family dynamics. I don't know why. I think family units to me are very interesting. And the imperfections of family units, no matter how much we have been conditioned to believe in the perfect family units. We all know because we live it. There's no there's no perfection in any family unit. Um, and so the fact that she is searching for a literary figure that is supposed to be her father, I think is an interesting piece to it. The next one we have is Five Bad Deeds. This is a standalone psychological thriller. My fave. Okay, I love a good psychological thriller, especially when it's an adult psychological thriller. This one um, is not comped, but tagged as being a gripping tale of revenge, loyalty, and secrets hidden between the walls of the most beautiful home in town. And I think that that alone is interesting because um, what we think people, the lives that we think people are living based on outward experiences are never quite the lives that they really are living. And so I love thrillers that kind of dismantle these images of perfection, especially those that like have wealth, completely tears them apart. And so I love that. I love that. All right. So next up we have I don't know if this is the last book, but this is the fourth book in Melissa de los Cruz's middle grade series that is also a fractured fairy tale type of situation. I have not read the other three books, but part of me is interested in starting this because once again, it's middle grade. You know, I love middle grade. I love fractured fairy tales. The Hiccup is written by Melissa de la Cruz, who I have had issues with her adult material. I don't think I've read any of her younger stuff, so it could be different. She could have a better skill set, and I also think she started off writing primarily for youth, teens, and children. But I read one of her adult, and I'm like, I can't. She did a. This also is what makes me nervous because these are retellings, and the book that I read by her was a Pride and Prejudice retelling. It is one of the worst books I've ever read in my life. So while I'm interested in this one, middle grade, fractured fairy tale retellings, I'm nervous because Melissa de la Cruz has done it. But I thought I would share it just in case any of you know any middle grade readers that like fractured fairy tales. Um, the next one is Yours for the Taking. I believe that this one is adult sci-fi, which I typically don't read a lot of sci-fi. This book takes place in 2050, which is not that far removed from us. This is just a quarter of a century, a little over a quarter of a century removed from us. And it follows a main character and her girlfriend that are living in what is left of Brooklyn. Um, and it talks about the effects of climate change. And I'm scared to read this one because I feel like this is going to hit very hard, especially when we're talking about the impact of climate change and the things that we're seeing now, especially like with temperatures, just things that I think you don't even have to do the scientific research to realize that something is different. I know here, like, we have stopped seeing seasons altogether. The weather is the most janky that I've seen it since I was a kid. The ups and downs of the heat and the cold weather, it's so extreme. You can't help but to notice that climate change is a thing that's happening. Um, but in their world, it's getting to a point where it won't be safe for them to go outside. And the only people who are guaranteed survival are those who have um, submitted an application and have been accepted to this thing called the Inside Project. Um, and it's a series of weather safe city sized structures around the world. So I think that there's this element of, oh goodness gracious, like climate change is like, that's a huge thing. I remember, what is that post apocalyptic movie, like 2012? I think it's what, like the climate change in that movie 2012. I think it's called 2012, and everything just completely falls apart. They always feel so real to me, and I know that it would take a long time to get there, but it's kind of hard to not believe that we're getting to those points. So on one hand, I have this like fascination with this one because it's tackling climate change, but then also this idea that people would have to apply in order to be able to survive it. What are the conditions of like the application? Is it the wealthy? And we think about stuff like that now, where if something cataclysmic was to happen, the only people who would probably be able to survive are the ones that have the money to pay for their survival. And so I'm curious to know if this author is going to um, if this author is going to kind of maybe dive into that conversation a little bit. Um, and the last one, I'm interested in this one because it follows a millennial and her mother. And it's the mother is a Peruvian immigrant, and the mother and daughter do not um, get along very well. And at the start of this book, this is kind of illustrating their last chance to reach common ground. I love books also that tackle dynamics between mother and their children's, especially mothers and their daughters. That is probably, I think, one of the most complicated relationships that I have personally experienced in my life. Being a daughter and being a mother to a daughter. It is complicated. It's so complicated. Um, and so that one really, really caught my attention too. I'm not a fan of the cover of any of these, but I think that the storytelling, especially for the last two, are really interesting. Not you want to be Mercy. Mercy has it all. Let me tell you, Mercy is the most pampered pig that I have outside of Wilbur. Wilbur was also a pampered pig, but Wilbur went through some trauma. Mercy, on the other hand, does not. Mercy is very, very pampered, very, very cared for, and very, very loved by her parents. Because Mercy gets tucked into bed. I can't get past the fact that Mercy gets tucked into bed at night. Me too, me too. I remember it's pretty decent. Okay. Yeah, she was. She was very big. She came out with a thriller last year. It was either early this year or last year called The Headmaster's List. And that got some good traction at my library. I didn't pick it up, but that seemed to do pretty well. But she really hasn't been like, like big in a long time. You're right. Yeah, I don't either. I don't like any like the designs for either what, especially for like Yours for the Taking. Um, I don't feel like that captures the essence of this book. I feel like we could have done a little bit better with the cover of that one. Um, Especially something we're talking about a potential apocalypse that could have been done better. And yeah, not a fan of any of these covers. I definitely agree, Ray. Not the greatest. Okay, we have another romantasy. This is The Serpent of Wings and Night. Now, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the third book? I should have looked this up probably uh before I did this, and I knew it when I put it on the list. I was like, girl, make sure you look this up. Make sure you look it up. Did I look it up? Mm-mm. Because I couldn't remember if her books are getting a new treatment or not. And I feel like they are. So this is the first book in the series. Which has already been out, mind you. This book has already been out. However, I think she got picked up by who did she get picked up by? We're gonna find out. She got picked up by Bramble, which I'm not familiar with. They got to be an imprint of somebody, but she got picked up by a publishing house because she independently published these. They changed the cover a little bit. Um, I know a lot of people do like her as an author. Um, this is Hunger Game meets vampires. Um, I don't know if I'll pick it up, but I feel like it's going to get a lot of traction once again because it already has traction. It's romantasy, and now they're re-releasing it under a publishing house, which means good things for her. This next one, Raiders of the Lost Heart. I like the cover. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've never read anything by Joe. I don't know anything by Joe. Um, but this cover and the fact that it's a play on Raiders of the Lost Ark, I was here for it. It literally is about rival archaeologists. Don't think I've ever read a romance that featured archaeologists. Um, that secret that team up on a secret expedition, um, secret Aztec expedition, and of course, you know, they're rivals. They're competing for the careers, but of course, naturally, they're going to fall in love. The thing with me and traditional romance, traditionally published romance, is that sometimes they can read a little bit formulaic because there's expectations from publishing houses. I tend to lean a little bit more towards indie because it's a free for all. They can kind of do whatever they want. Um, I could take an L with this, but the premise and the cover both kind of took me in. The next one we have, this one can go horribly wrong. Okay. And I'm almost wanting to read it to see if it's going to crash and burn, which is Rebecca Not Becky. And the reason why this could go horribly wrong is that Such a Fun Age was its comp. Take that as you will. Um, but Such a Fun Age is the comp. And it's about two upper class stay at home moms. One's black, one is white. Um, and it looks at, of course, motherhood, friendship, and then also um, it's set against the backdrop of racial reckoning. So this definitely could go wrong. And like I said, I almost want to read it to see the crashing and the burning, the possibility of crashing and burning. So is that for the romantasy? They don't do much variation with the romantasy covers. I have not read Priory of the Orange Tree at all. Um, I don't know. I don't know. It might be. Yeah, I know you didn't like it, right? I know you were not a fan of that one. And a lot of people were not a fan of that one. And the last two that we had for the week of December 5th, both of them are picture books. The first one is I Affirm Me. This is a picture book that uses the alphabet um, as a way to give Black children affirmations. So each letter of the alphabet is an affirmation, and it's designed to help Black children remember their inner strength, their power, and their worth. Which I would love that one for my daughter. And the last one is Keep Dreaming Black Child, um, which is an inspirational picture book um, for, of course, Black children about the power of dreaming big. This is kind of one that falls into the other one with the main character named Maya about the idea of like being anything that you want to be. Like, keep dreaming big. Don't set limitations on yourself. And I think that um, Black children, BIPOC children in general, have a more difficult time in seeing that sometimes. Not all the time, but I think sometimes that can be a thing. So happy to see that. Happy to see that. Having read such an age, me and hype books don't get along well. Yeah, that one was, like the 2020, let's teach the white masses about racism type of situation. People usually hold Such a Fun Age and The Only Black Girl like hand in hand, and I hated The Only Black Girl. I did not like that book. And every white woman that I've talked to loved The Only Black Girl, and I'm like, it makes sense. It does. It makes sense. And ironically, a lot of Black women hate Such a Fun Age, and a lot of white women love Such a Fun Age. Take that as you will. Take that as you will. Sorry, Kathleen. I just lumped you into the whole group. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Yeah, so much for the perfect catch would have felt like to be lost in your 20s. Gotcha. And don't remember Jessica. All right, let's go to the next week. All right, so this is the week of December 12th. This one should be a shorter list. All right, so the first thing that we have here is Parker's Big Feelings. If you've never read any of the Parker picture books, y'all, you're missing out. I love all of Parker's picture books. Um, Parker's not the writer, of course, but Parker is the main character that's in all of these books. This one is a level reader, beginner slash level reader. Um, and it focuses on Parker essentially just trying to make a um, a good day out of a bad day. I definitely will be reading that. The next one we have Heartstopper Volume 5 is coming out this week. Interestingly enough, I was in the video that I'm filming right now, talking about some graphic novels that could potentially have been Goodreads Choice Award nominees, um, semifinalists, winner, whatever. I last night I filmed a clip and I said, if this had worked out differently, if there was a list that existed, and if Heartstopper Volume 5 had released in enough time, it once again would have been a battle between Lore Olympus and Heartstopper. No lie. Those two would have been in direct competition with each other. And the last one that is on this slide is Grace's Chinese New Year. This is another leveled slash beginner reader slash leveled reader. And it literally is about a main character named Grace who's celebrating Chinese New Year. So, what did I miss? There's a lot going on in the comments. What did I miss? Oh, it's your birthday week. Happy early birthday, Erin. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so we have some young adults, um, contemporary and realistic fiction going on with these first two selections. The first one we have is Our Cursed Love. Um, this is comped as 51st Dates meets Love and Gelato, but it's set in Tokyo, Japan, um, and it's one of those about the choices we make, how it impacts our lives and the lives of others. Then we have Seven Dates in Candyland, which y'all, I first of all, I don't see, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I don't see many young adult books now with like real people on the cover. Like everything feels like it's illustrated, but I could be wrong in my assumption of that, but I do feel like everything is illustrated. So it's quite nice to see a um I pulled up a bigger picture because I wanted to make sure that this was an actual real picture. It is. It's a real photograph. I was like, wait, maybe I'm not looking at it right. But this one is about a sophomore in high school who tries to mend his parents' broken marriage, and then also kind of also woo his crush. But he's known as a candy man. I don't know if when y'all were in high school, um, if you've ever had kids in your school who were candy hustlers, like would buy, and I think their parents would have to be in on it. I always thought parents had to be in on it because it was like almost like they would get the candy from like Costco's or something like that, or even the Walmart packs of candy, and they would sell candy at school. So our main character is a candy hustler, um, and he's doing that to bring in some extra money, and his parents are social media people, which I thought was an interesting twist. I think in a lot of YA books that discuss social media, a lot of times it's the main character that that is part of social media. But in this, his parents have a YouTube channel, I think, and something else that they do, and they talk about um, relationships, but they're about to get divorced at the same time. So once again, this whole idea that everything that you see on social media is not necessarily um, true. And you know, I just think this is some interesting dynamics. I haven't heard about people doing like candy hustling in such a long time. Harry Turtledove is dadfic. Is it really dadfic? Okay, I wasn't sure. This is my first time coming across um Harry Turtledove. It does sound made up. Um I think that, this one was interesting to me. The reason why this one was interesting to me is because Publisher Weekly coins Harry Turtledove as, like, the mastermind of alternative history, which is it's fiction, but he takes events and puts a spin on it. So in this one, he's specifically looking at the spread of HIV, but not as it would have happened in the late 20th century, but what if it would have happened during the 1500s? And the idea of this and what he's trying to do with this, I could either love or hate this whole entire thing because it is a patriarchal society that is trying to contain the spread of HIV. And in doing that, their idea is to sequester women, which I don't even have the words. So they try to limit the contact between men and women unless the couple is married. Um, and the issue with it though is that it actually works, but I don't know what commentary this man is trying to make. But that's the part that throws me because I'm like, how, like, what are we trying to do with this? And so it sounds interesting, but I'm wondering about the execution and the delivery behind this. But Publishers Weekly seems to think that he does a great job, and this is the first time that I've ever heard of one of his books. But this they coin him as, like, the person to go to if you're looking for alternative history, reimagining of, like, real life historical events. So, I you know what? Just out of curiosity, because we really don't have that many to go over, we're gonna look at Kathleen had a good question. Is that a pen name? No, his real name is Harry Norman Turtledove. He's known for his work in genres of alternate history, historical fiction, fantasy, and science fiction. I have, like, y'all, seriously, I have never heard of this man until I came across this book. Um, he had a pseudonym, but it's not Turtledove. And he's written a lot of books. He's written as wow, he's written, y'all, this man has written a lot. And he does things that, like, he has a series for World War One where it combines elements of science fiction and alternate history. He has a quartet that, instead of the way World War II happened, it's aliens that invade. And so there's a subsequent trilogy that follows that gives a history of the generation of the first series as the humans and aliens work to share Earth. Y'all, this just might be my new kick. I love, as a history major, like, this is sick. Oh my goodness. He does an alternate history series where the South wins the Civil War and they are recognized as an independent nation from Britain and France. What in the world? Huh. This is uh, wow. 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 And he does things that are based off of different historical wars. Oh my goodness gracious. He has a hexology that describes an alternate World War II, which begins in 1938 over what was formerly known as Czechoslovakia. Oh my goodness. Not I just found a project for it because this is so interesting. He has a series where the Korean War escalates into World War III after Harry Truman allows Douglas MacArthur to use atomic bombs, and it leads to a chain reaction of nuclear bomb attacks throughout Asia, Europe, and North America. Child, watch me go to the library tomorrow and start putting this man's books on. Oh, I literally had never heard of him until I I came across this book and I was like, this is different. This could be incredible or this could be horrible. Oh my goodness. The next one movement check out his stuff in Clive. Oh, okay. So people love his Clive. Yeah, Clive Cussler is yeah, yeah, dad books. Drink her dad thick air. He just sounds really it just sounds really interesting. Thanks, Jennifer. Donald said, like, that stuff doesn't sound interesting to y'all. Aaron, send me Rex. Send me Rex. I as a history major, like y'all, this stuff is intriguing to think about. Like, if one thing would have changed, if one thing would have gone wrong in each situation. I don't want to say go wrong because a lot has gone wrong in each one of those wars. But if one thing would have changed, it would have altered history as we know it. Oh man. Oh wait. Oh my god, look up in the last. Okay. And the last, I'm deviating, y'all, will sound. He wrote this? What? And he's being serious. During his presidency, Donald Trump would be elected in the 2020 presidential election, but would die during a second coronavirus outbreak in 2024. As a result of his death, Vice President Mike Pence would succeed him and would oversee the actions of the United States being transformed into a right-wing Christian fundamentalist authoritarian state, and would eventually lead to the West Coast states of California, Oregon, and Washington seceding from the U.S. and forming their own nation called Pacifica. What? 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 Y'all, the cover is a tad bit ridiculous. But what? Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. I'm telling you, y'all, I am looking this man up. When I get off of this live, I am looking. Oh, that sounds so interesting. Okay, done with Harry Turtledove. Now I know that's. Oh man, what awesomeness! Right, Ray. I really did. Me and Monet would eat that up. Oh, okay. The next one we have Housebroke. This is another um adult romance. I don't know if this is. I guess because I just started doing these videos this year, but it seems like an influx of contemporary romance dropping in the midst of winter. And so that is very confusing to me because I'm like, and a lot of these feel very much so like summer vibes. So very interesting to see them coming out in December. Um, so this one focuses on a millionaire and a woman who thinks he's a house flipper, and they are stuck living in a house together with a menagerie of rescue dogs as roommates. So this is romantic comedy. Clearly, the trope here is going to be forced proximity. Honestly, this could be a hit or a miss for me. I think the cover is beautiful, but this could be a complete miss. Um, I added Game On in this because I read her first book, Love Con, and it was like a 3.5 star for me. And this has a gamer element to it, which made me um interested um, in it in general. I don't know if it will be. It probably will be once again, just based off the writing style from the first one that I read, which is the Love Con. Um, it probably will be another like 3.5 if I do end up picking it up. Um, all right. And the last one that we have on here is Love Bubble, which I think the artwork in this one is going to be gorgeous, y'all. The cover is beautiful. Um, it is a lyrical picture book that is based on spoken word. And it's just one of those books that focuses on affirming love and community and family. And I love the cover. I thought the cover was absolutely just gorgeous. Um, and I should only have a couple more. Yeah, I think this is it for this week. Her Dark Wings, I actually have this one on audio as a Libro FM early release copy. This is a reimagining of Persephone. It is comped as being good for fans of Lord Olympus. I actually do like Lord Olympus. It's not the best graphic novel that I've ever come across, mind you, because of how many I read. I've read better, but Lord Olympus is good for what it does. And I do like the Persephone myth. It's about two best friends that are split apart by betrayal, and they find that they are reunited back in the underworld. Um, and they don't know if they're going to make it out. So, what I think is interesting about this one is this cover. I don't know if y'all can see, but if you see, this is actually a person's face, and those are the lips. And then you have the pomegranates right here, which I think is just this cover design was good. I think the cover design was good. Um, um, the next one is a picture book. Kayana loves her friend. Um, and this is a slumber party picture book, which I think is great. I don't know if I've read a lot of picture books. I've come across a handful, but I haven't read a lot that just are hyper fixated on slumber parties and the ups and downs that can happen at a slumber party. Because I think that as a kid, you know, slumber parties are like this huge thing. I want to spend the night at my friend's house. But then there are highs and lows that come with slumber parties and friendship in general. And so I was excited to see that. And then the last one I have here is a middle grade graphic novel um, that is a space adventure. This one could be a hit or miss. I've been reading a lot of middle grade graphic novels this year, and most of them have been bangers, but I've run across a few duds this year. Um, Aaron, I'm gonna take a picture because I'm not gonna remember all of these that you're given. Thank you so much. I'm gonna scroll up really quick so that I can see the other two. I am not a fan of Stephen King, Aaron, but I did hear that 11/22/63 is good. I have heard that. Um, yeah, I have heard that 11/22/63 is good. Long, but good. All right. Oh, sorry, y'all. You see what happens here? That's from last month. Okay? I apologize. I left the whole slide in there. Those were last month releases. So if you want to know more about those three books, go to the last live show. All right, week of December 19th. I only have two titles on here. I have been reading more children's chapter book series, not always documenting them, but I've been reading Heidi Hecklebeck, which is Henry's older sister. I've been reading those slowly. Heidi Hecklebeck comes from a long line of witches. She is a witch herself, but Henry and I believe his father do not have any magical abilities. And so Henry has his own book series that I think does not technically start until after you get through the first 18 of Heidi Hecklebeck. So this is the newest one that is releasing in its book number 14. Henry makes some homemade slime and it goes horribly wrong. And the last thing I have is The Black Joy Project, which is a book that has 117 full color photos and essays about um, Black life around the globe. This is comed as Humans of New York Meets the Black Book, which I think that that book is probably going to be beautiful. I was able to go to like one or two, like two friends that my mother was friends with the parents, and they were highly, highly, highly vetted. So I was not approved to go to everyone's house for a slumber party, which I'm probably going, not probably, I'm going to be the same with my child. I would prefer to host. She can have people come over as much as she wants, not as much as she wants, when the time is appropriate. But I will be very hesitant to allow vice versa for a plethora of reasons. Okay, we are hitting, this is the last week. This is December 26th. There is actually a decent amount of stuff coming out considering that this is the day after Christmas. I don't know how long it's been since we've had a release day that literally follows Christmas, since Christmas is on a Monday this year. Um, is it on a Monday or am I bugging? Let's check the date. It is. Um, and so ironically, you have release day following Christmas, which sales. I mean, you've already spent so much money. But some of these people are going to buy regardless, especially these three. So we have a new Babysitters Club graphic novel coming out. If you didn't know, they're doing a couple of things right now. They are re-releasing the Babysitter Club books with new covers. These new, um, more, I think, this generation type of covers that would appeal to the younger readers of today because the old covers look old. But I have some of the older ones, and the new release ones definitely are, the cover appeal is there. They are re releasing the Karen Babysitter Club books, which is the little sister. And then they are doing graphic novel adaptations of the Babysitter Club books. Now, I don't know if they're doing a graphic, right now, they have done a graphic novel adaptation for every single one um, of of the books, like book by book by book. I don't know if they can keep that up um, because there's so many Babysitter Club books, and these only release like two times a year. So, and it's done by a whole team of people, so it's not the same person doing the illustrations um, every single time, but still. I don't know if they're eventually going to have to start combining books together in these graphic novels, or if they've already started. But I know at least the first handful have been book by book by book. Same thing here with Wings of Fire. They have been adapting every single one of the Wings of Fire books into graphic novels, and this is book number 7. All the series is at book number 14 or 15, I think, at this point. So there's that. And then we have Bad Kitty. These are also re-releases. Um, Bad Kitty makes a movie, has already come out, but these books were originally released in black and white, and they have been slowly re-releasing them in cover. So all of these have been published in some way. The first two, they have prose, and they're based off of those prose books or adaptations. And this one is being re-released. The Bad Kitty is being re-released in full color. All of these high circulating books, kids love them. Um, I haven't read the Bad Kitty series, but I'm fans of Wings of Fire and the Babysitters Club. I don't think they're complete. I think that well, we can look really quick. I'm pretty sure it's not complete. I feel like Tutti Sutherland is. I feel like there's supposed to be at least one more book. Um, hmm, I don't know. And they're not, how to explain Wings of Fire? They're not all consecutive series, meaning that there are story arcs. So it's not books with 1 through 15 where you're following the same characters. You have um, each one is a prophecy. So the first 5 books are the Dragonet prophecy. Then you have the Jade Mountain prophecy. Then you have the Lost Continent prophecy. And then you have the Legend series. So I'm not sure Um, I feel like she was supposed to write one more. I haven't heard any word about her being finished with them. The last one that came out was Flames of Hope, which was in 2022. Um, we could be getting a new one soon. I don't know. So there's 15 books right now. If she does a 16, I feel like it would be a new, because she does 5 books in each story arc. Um, trying to see, Ray. Oh, nobody has anything that I'm seeing past book 15. Um, she could be done, but I don't think there's been any announcement of it being done. Hold on. Let's see. Hmm. So she hasn't announced. Hold on. Now, see, someone saying that the Poison Jungle will be booked. That's crazy. See, people just put anything on the internet. They said the Poison Jungle was book number 16 and the Poison Jungle already released. People tell you anything. They'll tell you anything. So I don't I'm not sure, Ray. If she it's just nothing there's nothing there. Like she hasn't said anything. Um but if she does a book 16, I promise you it'll end up being a new story arc. And honestly, I don't know why she wouldn't do it. Um because I'm sure that people would definitely read it. And as many story arcs as we see with like the Warrior series, she could do it. All right. Next set that we have Ruthless Vows. I'm excited for this one myself because I read Divine Rivals and really, really enjoyed it. I did not know that it was only going to be a duology. So I'm very interested in seeing how she's going to wrap everything up with Ruthless Vows. That was quick. I feel like with this it's going to fall victim to is there's not really the world is merely a backdrop and not something to be explored. And I think I have to I have to recognize that because one of my biggest um, points of criticism with Divine Rivals was that Rebecca Ross introduces this very interesting world of gods and goddesses and their use of humans to fight on their behalf, but she doesn't. It's very hazy for me when I think about it as a reader. It's not a clear cut image of what this world is really like. And because it's a duology, I highly doubt that she's going to go into that world in specific detail. Um, but I thought that Divine Rivals was very, very well written. Very, very well written book. So I'm looking forward to Ruthless Vows. On the plus side could be Amos, because this one is going to have Fat Rep in it. It is comped as What Not to Wear meets Queer Eye, um, and it's supposed to be a romantic comedy. Um, yeah, yeah, and she's the main character is going on a popular plus size makeover show. So that's why I said this could go left for me. I always try to look for plus size whenever I read romances, whenever I'm in the mood, good plus size rep. Um, and I don't always get that. So there's that. The next one is an adult thriller. This is Two Dead Wives. This one I thought is interesting. So a woman in this book goes missing. She's supposed to be dead. She has 2 husbands, mind you, okay? 2, 2, and they're both suspects in her murder. I don't know, there's a lot that can go into the background of that. Um, the fact that she has 2 husbands, like, it's interesting, that part, but the title is Two Dead Wives, so I don't know. We'll see where that one goes. Um, the next one we have is I don't know if this one is going to be like a informational picture book or just a picture book. It depends upon how the narrative is told, but this one is about Toni Morrison, and it's called Small Girl Toni and the Quest for Gold. So it's inspired by the life of and the works of Toni Morrison. We have Familia, um, which takes place in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and it is looking at 2 women in their 20s, and it looks at culture and class, and it is comped for fans of Nina LaCour, Elizabeth Acevedo, Julia Alvarez. So if those are your, um, your jam, then might want to check that one. This is what I was talking about with the Babysitter Club Little Sister books being re-released. The next one that they have slated to come out is Karen's New Year, which of course takes place um, during the New Year. Not 2 husbands. And she's greedy. All right, next we have What Waits in the Woods. So this follows the main character who used to dance ballet. She no longer dances ballet because she has an injury, and she ends up having to go home. Um, when she gets home, she discovers something that's not so great, and she learns that nothing from what she knew about her past is reality. And so this is a suburban thriller, which is the first time that I've ever heard that term used, suburban thriller. I don't think I've ever heard that used, but one of the comps for me was interesting because for fans of Stacey Willingham Greer Hendricks and Megan Miranda, who I've read Megan Miranda. Um, very, very interesting choice for the cover of that one. The next one we have is um, the Met did a children's informational picture book about Frida Kahlo, and it is, um, of course, inspired by her artwork and how she viewed the world and how the world inspired her artwork. The next thing we have is The Inflatables. This is another cute chapter book series. This is like kids who like The Bad Guys. Um, if you've ever heard of that series, The Inflatables is a very, very good comp for Bad Guys. I am slowly reading the Bad Guys series. They're hilarious. The Inflatables is literally about, I read the first book this year. It's literally about a group of inflatable like tubes, like inflatable tubes that you take to like the water park or to the beach or to the pool. But they are like, they have thoughts and feelings. It is the strangest thing. But I really did enjoy the first one. And so I think this is the 4th or 5th one that's coming out. Um, After that, we are looking at another one of those What Is, Who Was books, which are really, really great nonfiction books that I think have been developed in a way that it's more accessible for younger readers, more interesting. Um, I think the way that it is just the layout of it is more appealing. And so this is one of the newer ones that's coming out, which is What is a Story of Romeo and Juliet. I simply included this one for my own selfish purposes. I read Romeo and Juliet in 8th grade. Absolutely. It's one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, but it's weird because it is not romantic at all. It's actually quite weird. Um, and I feel like now, hindsight is everything. Romeo preyed on Juliet. But it still is one of my favorite plays by Shakespeare. And so this is a book that talks about their origin. Next, we have another YA thriller. This just seems to be the season for YA thrillers. And that one is That's Not My Name. So this is a teenager who wakes up shivering, bruised on a dirt road and has no idea how she got there. Um, and then an officer finds her, takes her to the police station. A man arrives and he says he's been searching for her for hours. And he has her school ID, he has her birth certificate, and he even has family photos. Mind you now, she has no idea who this man is. I love the idea of this one because imagine if she has not lost her memory, right? How could this man have gotten all of this information about her? So that was like interesting. And the last one that I have on this list is Every Black Girl Dances. Um, and this one follows a main character who goes from film school um, and instantly hits it big in Hollywood. But um, the reason why she's made it big in Hollywood is because she has primarily focused on creating, being a part of Black trauma films. And so it has inevitably made her a household name. But then the question is, at what price? What are you sacrificing in order to reach this level of achievement, especially when you are exposing Black trauma for um, entertainment? Um, she ends up going back home at some point and having to really reconsider the decision she's made in her life as a superstar. There are some romantic elements, I think, in this one, but I think that this one is going to fall mainly on the side of fiction with romantic elements, as opposed to it being adult romance based off of what I've read in the premise. Not y'all just put y'all both. But listen, just put it on hold. I don't know. Like, it would seem like that would be her kidnapper, but at the same time, that would be too easy. That would be way too easy because that's the first thing I would think too is that he's created this whole entire scheme as her kidnapper to um, get access to her personal life. Um, but I don't know. I don't think it's that easy. I'm really interested in checking that one out. Okay, y'all. That's actually it. Those are the 58 titles. Um, I do not have. Oh, there we go. I don't have anything else for the month of December. I'm gonna try. Be honest with you. I'm gonna try my hardest to get to the January releases by the end of this month. Maybe actually I'm gonna have to because the first set of releases is January 2nd, right? Um, but if I was to do this live on Mondays, that would be January 1st. And I'm not going to do that on January 1st. So hopefully, maybe, I don't know, maybe sometime in the next couple weeks, I'll put together the January live. I will let y'all know when I do that. Um, if all hearts and minds are clear, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream here because it is 9:30 and we have been here for an hour and a half. I just want you all to know that I definitely will be looking at my dear friend um, Harry Turtledove and some of his books to see what we have at our library. I'm not going to even lie to you. I'm very, very intrigued by this man's works. So if we took anything away from it, we've learned that Ashley is in her dadfic era. And I hate saying that word, but I don't know how else to describe it. Thank you to Aaron for coining that for me. And thank you so much for the recommendations of other alternative history books. Um, all right, y'all, be easy. Be on the lookout for the January 2024 releases. It's a lot. It's a lot. I may break that one up, but we'll see. All right, y'all. Have a good night.